Welcome back, everyone. I'm Dave, and today I'm going to discuss um, picking up girls when you're a little bit older. And I've got a special guest on today, Dale from Modern Valor Dating. Uh, and welcome to the show, Dale. What
What's
we
up, man?
Well, before we kick it off, I'm Dave, and this channel is dedicated to giving you no bullshit, novel dating advice for the modern man. And in the description, I have a free ebook on how to overcome adversity, and that's pretty much what we're going to discuss today. So, Dale, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Now, I guess as I'm a little bit older, if you have a nerdy, incel or unattractive guy that's, under 25 and he doesn't
hmm
have any advantages, um, I can now go, okay, well, I know how you feel when I didn't know how he felt when I was younger. And so,
Yeah.
and that's why I think you and I have an advantage when it comes to coaching guys is that we've gone from I guess like younger guys
Yeah.
that probably weren't too unattractive to
Right.
being somewhat unattractive but bringing a lot of experience too, and so therefore we have a lot more to bring to the table. It's like I know how you feel, but I also have tons of experience to bring to the table
Right.
and I guess that's partly why I guess I wanted to get into coaching pickup myself was partly because okay, well, I feel like I've got something now to offer. Before it was just I was doing it for myself just to increase as many bring as many girls into my life as possible. But
Yeah.
now it's like uh, you realize that there's a point where you're qualified and you can't really
hmm
get a degree in coaching pickup. But it's it would be great if it would be great if you could.
Right. That would legitimize or cancel out a lot of people
Yeah.
if that was the case.
Yeah, so I think breaking it down and having a professor come up in front and say, okay, so what's your strategy for this week on how to pick up
Yeah.
girls? And we'll break it down scientifically, and and I think that's something that really can come with experience. And a guy that's under 25 can't bring that experience because they're not really self. I think some might offer something, but
hmm
I think if you're going to learn something, would you rather learn from someone with a degree that has learned a lot of theory and can't really
Right.
put it into practice, or would you rather get a
Yeah.
professor with a PhD to come and teach you something? You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's,
dude.
yeah.
I get you, man. I totally understand where you're coming from, man.
Mm,
Uh, I'm a big believer in that. What you want to do as a coach. Okay. One of the things that you want to do, and maybe you agree with me, maybe you won't, but this is just how I get down. All right. So I've got somebody, Modern Valor Dating, we have six coaches other than myself. All right. And, we got guys, in other places of the world. I got a guy in Germany. I got a guy in South Africa, a couple of places in the United States. And so the thing is that my protege, though, he, he lives in the Detroit area as well, and he's 22. All right, so he's been in game. I don't know, man, probably 3 years, something like that. Now, do I have him out there like coaching? No. But what I do have him do is when I have students here locally, in the Detroit metro area, and then I have virtual students all over the world. As a matter of fact, I got a guy in Australia. As a matter of fact, and anyway, the guys that I coach infield in person, I have him work with a lot of those guys in, like, I'll work with one of them, he works with one of them. Like he wings for them, in other words.
yeah.
So he may open sets and bring them in, or we'll have that guy open sets, and then Joe will come in and wing for him and things like that. And then he'll give him some some tips and some ideas and suggestions, right after, if that set falls apart, like, all right, look, man, you're going to want to do this, maybe say it this way, check your tonality, your body language sucks, straighten up a little bit, things like that. But he's not working with them on an intimate level as to where I am, because, I believe that game comes down to three concepts. All right. Game comes down to outer game. Well, let's put it this way: inner game, outer game, and calibration. All right. I had a guy that hit me up that was 19 years old that wanted to coach. I appreciated his effort, and I appreciated his confidence in getting at me. He wanted to work for Modern Valor Dating. And I was like, dude, you can't even get into, like, in the United States, you can't even get into the bar, man. Like, like, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like, a big chunk of game is just now been thrown right out the window. A, you've never done it because you can't get in. And B, you certainly can't coach it because you've never been there.
Actually, that brings me to something that you and I were discussing before we went live here, or well, before we started recording. In one of the chats, there's a guy in Sydney who I remember 5 years ago. I met the guy. He was 18, and at 18 he was a coach, and he's been coaching for 5 years now.
Okay.
And what he did was the strategies that he took on were the London day game model. From my understanding, it's all day game, and it's all set around this very specific way of doing game, and no night game. I don't think he has any night game, which is something that if you're under 25, that should be your go-to, is make the most of the nightclubs while you're still able to tear them up. But yeah, and what he did was he came into a chat because there was a guy in his early to mid 30s that put up a video of him picking up, say, Asian girls. And he just started ripping into this like guy in his mid 30s and saying, look, you're a white guy in Asia and it's easy for you. But he didn't have the self-awareness to understand that the last 5 years he's been in his prime running around approaching girls that are literally just all he has to do is really, he also hits the gym. He's got some big shoulders now. He's got a big chest, and so he's kind of jacked too as well. So I've noticed from when I first met him when he was 18 to now, he's now jacked. He's got this massive chest, and he's not self-aware enough to understand that he doesn't have the experience, and most of his success is coming basically from approaching. And I think that's something that when he reaches, say, 30 or something like that, when his looks start to decline, and maybe 35, then he'll start to realize, oh wow. And it'll be funny because when he hits 35, he'll probably have this new 18-year-old fresh in game that's a new coach ripping into him.
Right.
The circle of life. But I think I just don't think that he's self-aware enough, and doing you're being coached. Your job is to fail and try as many different things until you get it right. And on top of that, even if you meet up with I guess part of I've interviewed Paul Janko. My goal is to go over to London and somehow drag him away from his wife for a sneaky day game session. I'd love to be able to do that. That's like my dream. And if I met up with Paul Janko, who like I look up to, I would be spam approaching the fuck out of London. I'll be like, come on, Paul, let's do this shit. 100 approaches. And and that's what it is. It's fun, and I think if you want to get good at it, you have to fail. You have to enjoy it. You have to get blown out. I guess if I was in front of someone that I looked up to, like Paul Janka, I'd be approaching 10 sets. I'll be approaching a whole, like out the front of the university. There'll be 20 girls walking out. I'll be like, who wants it? and,
I like my odds. There's 20 of you. One of you has to.
and Paul will probably, be like, he's approaching. He's getting amongst it. And it's fun, right? And so, and I'll be like, it's your turn, Paul. Come on, let's go. And that will be that's what game is. It's not really, you're not going to go over there and make an approach and it's going to just run it's not going to be perfect. Let's just say one in 100 you'll get that perfect one, and it does happen, but it's rare, but you can only get to that 100 by doing 99 fails. And and that's something that some guys do ask that. I'm sure you get this question all the time. So how many approaches do I need to make until I get laid? Have you heard that question before? You just think just do it until it works out, okay?
Right, yeah. Like how many? Like, well, let me get out my statistical data and put this together. Let me get your take on something real quick. So there's a big philosophy in game, right? And I'm sure you've heard this. When I say it, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, all right? There's a big philosophy in game about freedom from outcome, all right? What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, that's a tough one. I think depending on the guy, if the guy's not making any approaches, he needs to learn a little bit of freedom of be a little bit free from the outcome so that he makes more approaches. But on the other hand, if he's sometimes there'll be a guy that will come out and he will make a few because he's got a little bit of anxiety, and then something will happen in his brain where he'll have like this adrenaline rush and then become a spam monkey. and he won't analyze what he's doing, and he'll just be running around spamming. So I think I think you would say freedom of outcome to someone who's not doing anything. But then if they're not doing anything, quite often, if you're telling them you need some freedom of outcome, they will hit this sweet spot, which quite often happens at the beginning when a session starts to get going. So you often say that to someone who struggles, but as soon as they get, say, 5 approaches in, that all of the anxiety is gone and the adrenaline does something to their brain and they go insane. And then they start saying stupid things and then going over the top. So there's a sweet spot in between both. And when I hear freedom of outcome, it's more, I think, directed as that guy that has just woken up, he's met up with a wing, or he's going out doing some he's doing a boot camp or something, and he can't get going in the morning. That's what you say. Or if it's like you've just hit the nightclub and he just can't get going. He wants to, as soon as you're like, okay, let's go, he's like, I'm going to get some water. I'm going to go to the toilet. He goes to the side of the bar and asks for a glass of water. Or he's like, I'll be back. I just need to go to the toilet again. That's when the freedom of outcome needs to come in, and you need to be a bit more free and loosen up a little bit. But there's this sweet spot. So, but after a while, I hope I've identified what you're trying to talk about.
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. Is that what you were trying to mean when you were?
Absolutely. So, you always hear this like mantra of freedom from outcome. I'm a believer in that until I'm not. So what I mean by that is, at a certain point in time, results matter. You know, so
Yeah.
like I can say, all right, well, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to go to my job and I'm going to work all week, you know, Monday through Friday, right? I'm going to work every day, but then I'm not going to get a paycheck. Well, freedom from outcome. You know what I mean? Like, that's all right. I wasn't expecting one anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, now, at a certain point in time, results kind of matter. You know, like if you're putting you get into this because you have a goal. You know, there's some ambition there. There's like, I got to get better with women, or I've got, you know, I want to, you know what it's like to go on a date. You know, it could be a small goal, it could be a large goal. At a certain point in time, to me, it's like a thing of like, all right, well, you know, you want to have freedom from outcome in that you can't stake your identity on that outcome. However, you're putting all this work in, you should start seeing some results. And I kind of feel like that oftentimes guys use that as a scapegoat or an excuse as to why they're not getting results. You know, they're not getting results. Like, I'm going to the club 3 nights a week, and I'm approaching 50 girls every single time, and nothing's happening. And I can say to make myself feel better, freedom from outcome, you know. So, like, then why did you even go to begin with? You know, like, if you didn't want to, you know, you weren't, I guess, pitting your hopes on an outcome, then why'd you even step in there in the first place? Why'd you even go?
Yeah.
You know, like you just wanted to go and bother a bunch of people all night? Like that was your goal? Run around bothering girls? You know? So, I just think at a certain point in time, results kind of matter. You know, you've got to start working your way towards a result. So, like, oftentimes, like if I'm working with somebody, well, it really doesn't matter, I guess, where they're at in their game. But like if they're new, we'll say this is like, you know, my first weekend out with a new guy that I'm working with. I'm not expecting them to pull or anything like that weekend. Now, if they do, okay, great. That's awesome if they do. But it's not my expectation. My expectation is getting them to feel comfortable being, oftentimes, I don't know about you, but like a lot of the guys that I work with, they're not comfortable being like in a club atmosphere. It's not a place that they would normally go, you know, so they're comfortable being at home playing video games. That's their comfort zone. That's where it ends, is that front door. So, you know, I'm just trying to get them acclimated and comfortable being in a club, and also just approaching, you know, just that. Like if you can go and approach and not get blown out of set, I'm good. I'm good with that, you know. So the outcome in that situation isn't, you know, like, all right, man, like you got to start pulling, you know. We went out last night. Now it's Saturday. Tonight's time to pull. No, that's a little unrealistic in my mind. I mean, if it happens, it happens. Okay, great. It has happened, but it's not something I bank on. But I just want them to start feeling comfortable being in social environments where there's a lot of attractive women, and them being able to go and approach those women. Or from a coach perspective, like if your guy is ever doing anything and never progressing, and you just say, it's cool, man, freedom from outcome, you're not really helping them, you know, in my opinion.
So you covered quite a bit of ground there. I guess the incremental gains, being free from outcome is mainly used, I guess, obviously to get people approaching. That's just my opinion. But freedom of outcome, as in the other definition, as in you can just game forever and not actually get any results. You need results. Results are very, very important, and the goal is to get results, obviously. And so someone that has has a lot of results would understand all of those little points that you need to hit in order to get the results. You can accidentally, you can accidentally pull straight home, and you can actually have some luck really fast as well. But also understanding that there's a lot of steps, that need to be taken. And there's a difference in the philosophy there, freedom from outcome, that does I see that I call it the intermediate purgatory, where you have a lot of guys where as soon as they learn how to approach, they might get maybe laid by using these basic strategies, but their overall philosophy is so faulty that they end up in intermediate purgatory forever. And eventually what they do is they start coaching. There's a lot of intermediate purgatory guys out there that eventually stop approaching, and then they either do some coaching, they either hang in the manosphere somewhere, or they just quit and then they do something else. I've seen that evolution, like during my lifetime. I've just seen so many guys come in, learn some faulty philosophy, get stuck in intermediate purgatory, their ego goes through the roof. Next thing you know, they're meeting up with all these wings in the groups, and 10 years later you still see them in the groups meeting new guys, and they're teaching new guys their faulty philosophy. Like, it's not paid coaching, it's just free because they're meeting up with newbies.
Right.
And then they all end up in intermediate purgatory with very few results. And then eventually they end up either disappearing, or they just hover in the background forever. So I see that, and that does come from, I believe, when they first join up to game, the philosophy that they're taught damages them forever. So I guess, and it's hard to unlearn bad habits.
It's funny that you bring that up about, like these guys get stuck in like pickup dogma. This is the way. All right, if you look, man, I don't know how many like pickup groups or anything like that you're on, like in Facebook or anything like that. One thing that I cannot stand, like in the Modern Valor dating group, I will not tolerate this, where things become a pissing match about, like for instance, you have somebody who's like, you got natural game guy, right? Then over here you've got structured game guy, a la like a mystery method, okay, type of guy. So this guy, natural game guy is like, if you don't do game my way, you're doing it wrong. No, if you're not doing game my way, you're doing it wrong. You know what I mean? Like, where it's like this pissing match of like dogma, And I have a give me your take on this. I have a saying. I say it all the time. All right. Everything works. It's just what works best for the individual. All right. So, in other words, like, look, if according to your personality and the type of person that you are, maybe natural game will work for you better. Or if you're a different type of personality, maybe a structured game would work better for you. Or maybe like an NLP type of game will work better for you. This is the thing, dude. When it comes down to it, I would venture to say, and I don't teach this, and I doubt you do either. And I doubt very many coaches teach this, all right? Because it's like the weakest game ever. But, I would venture to say there's more people born on this planet from this type of game. Hi, you're really pretty. Can I buy you a drink? All the pickup techniques put together. You know what I mean? So what I mean is, I would never teach a guy to go up and say, "Huh, you're really pretty. Can I buy you a drink?" You know, I would never do that. But however, that works. It works for some people. It has to. You know, 7 billion people on this planet. Probably a billion of them were born to their dad walking up to their mom and saying that. You know,
Yeah.
so
saying two things. Firstly, I'm interested in you by saying I think you're pretty, putting her above him, and two, can I buy you a drink? Playing the hypergamous provider. So I totally get that. Yeah. So hopefully people at home learned something today. We covered a lot.
I would hope so.
We covered quite a lot of things. We covered, yeah. If they've watched to this far, at least, we've covered quite a lot of ground, actually. But what do you think? We've covered enough for today?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good. I know that you want to jump up on the IGTV and do a little Q&A session with viewers,
Yeah.
and I'm all for that. So yeah.
Yes, and Valor Dating, and I'll put a link in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next video.